Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. I'm your guest host today, Ciara Gravier of the Bunker Insurance. And today I'm so excited to be joined by my good friend, Lisa Hengel, owner of Willow Wood Insurance Agency. Lisa founded Willow Wood Insurance in 2013 and established it with a vision to create a community centric, woman led, love that, agency that prioritizes values like integrity, sustainability, and support for both clients and team members. A year later, in 2014, she took over her uncle's agency upon his retirement, and she still serves many of the original Hawkins Insurance clients. In December 2021, she completed the prestigious Goldman Sachs 10K small business program, joining a network of over 10,000 fellow small business owners who have benefited from this intensive training. She's deeply committed to increasing female representation in the male dominated insurance industry and is passionate about educating young adults on the importance of insurance. She also has a cute pup that's joining us today, so we love
No,
that. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to see you, Sierra. It's always a good day when I get to chat with you.
Always a good day.
I love
I have so much to talk to you about. First of
it. Okay,
all,
good.
I know that you did the Goldman Sachs program. Let's just jump right in. Tell me about it. How was
Oh, I
it?
love.
I'm dying to do it. What was your best takeaway of the program? Because there's a little bit of commitment involved, correct?
There's a big commitment
Yeah.
involved. Yeah. So that was 2021. So it is an extensive application process. I think there's 3 rounds of interviews. It's been around since I think 2010, something like that. So it's a well-established program. Technically, it's Goldman Sachs Foundation that runs this program. Being a business owner, man, it is like global. You're part of a global community when you're a business owner. Even if you're a tiny business, I think when I did the program, I think I had 1 employee. I now have 4 employees. It's
Mm,
just, and they really track you too, Sierra. That's the other thing. There's not, they don't like, okay, there are no strings attached. It's not like you have to do this because you did this, but like personally, I feel a very vested interest in like continuing to stay connected with them because the opportunity they presented to me was incredible. So they send out a survey every 6 months and it takes maybe half hour to fill out all of the things like updating numbers of your business and what's been going on so that they can track exactly how successful their program is in helping business owners. It's amazing.
First of all, twofold, right? There's so much from a accountability perspective that is
Yes.
probably so beneficial. Because we all have our pockets of communities in this industry. Even you and I, we have a quarterly meetup, right? Which we're
Yep.
crushing our goals.
We
We
are
ne-
crushing our
we never
goals.
think we are, but then when we meet, we see
Yeah,
that we actually are, which is great.
absolutely.
Um, but that level of accountability that's more sophisticated, right,
Yeah.
than just you and me chatting, right? Like it that I'm sure that's so beneficial
Yeah.
to you and to all the business owners. And also just the financial literacy aspect of it. I
Hmm.
know that for me, I would love like Teresa had told me about the program when she did it, and I know you've done it. I know a couple people that have done it, and I really maybe it's going to be on my 26 bingo card. I might because
It's
I think they have it
incredible.
in person here
I think
in
they have it in
Miami.
Miami, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
Teresa, I think she did it in Dallas.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that the financial literacy aspect of the business side, right? Because I think that I know for myself one of the biggest mistakes I make is running this business as an insurance agent, not as a
Yep.
business owner.
Yep.
So I'm super excited. I think you know what? We might need to add that to our quarterly check-in to see if I
Woo!
applied.
Sierra, I'm going to spam you when I'm
Yeah,
in Washington, D.C. at the end
please
of
do.
this month, and you're going to be like, I want to be there. It's
It
motivating.
sounds
It's great.
incredible. It sounds like something that not only do I need, but I would really enjoy, and
Yeah.
it goes along with kind of like what I'm building here anyways. How did you get started in insurance?
My dad, when I was growing up, my dad was an independent insurance agent. I didn't know what it meant. It was totally like not on my radar at all. First, he was with Horace Mann, then he went independent. He's the oldest of 4 kids, and along his path, he got his younger brother first into Horace Mann Insurance and then split off into independent insurance. So I kind of always had it in my background. Then my dad, after I graduated from high school, he went back into teaching high schools. It was just like osmosis learning. It wasn't like an intentional learning thing. My uncle started mentioning to me at casually at family gatherings, no like specific communication, but at family gatherings, like, hey, at some point I'm going to be getting out of insurance. I'll be retiring. Would you ever be interested in getting into the insurance field? And I'd be like, sure, yeah. What are you thinking? And he would always say, like, well, you have to work 3 years in the insurance industry full time, basically to get, now looking back on what he was saying was to get some insurance knowledge so that when I sell you my agency, you'll know what's going on, right? But all I could hear was like 3 years full time. And I was like, that's not possible. It won't be possible for another 20 years. Like, I can definitely do flexible. I can't leave and be gone 8 hours and come back. That doesn't work with our family structure. So I would always demurely say, like, oh, thanks for thinking of me. That's what a compliment, but we're moving on. So he mentioned this for a couple of different times over the course of years. And one time, my brother in law happened to be walking past and he heard the conversation. And he called me later that night and said, do you have any idea what he's offering you? Like, I don't think you quite understand what the situation is. And I said, no, explain. What is the situation? And he said, he's offering to sell you a business and he will step out of the way. That was like, that's what caught me. When I launched in 2013, he basically said, like, he had totally given up all pretense of having me like learn the industry. He was so ready to retire at that point. So he basically said, I will pay to put you through the Hartford online producer training, Safeco online producer training, and your Kaplan license classes. So when I launched the agency, I was launching it in 2013 as a 2013 agency. So I needed a website that he never had. I needed a Google Voice phone number that he never had. I did not need a fax machine that he had always had. So there were a lot of things that I was just kind of learning. Just, I don't know how, just kind of trying to pick
By
up, like,
fire.
ABC, like, what, how do you launch a business? And then I bought the agency. So I knew nothing about insurance. I had taken the license class where I was learning like the definition of the word deductible, the definition of the word premium, like that is all Greek to me. And it was a real deficit at first to have no insurance background. It definitely was a giant learning curve because I also had nobody to, I didn't have anybody close to me to talk to about all of this stuff. In hindsight, it is my biggest asset that I'm a business owner first and I know insurance second. But it's been like what, 12 years now, 13 years now. It's definitely a benefit at this point. But I have a team now who has decades of experience in insurance. So it's huge. It's great.
What would you say is your favorite part about working in insurance and owning a business in this industry?
Right. Well, my favorite part is also the most frustrating part. So I think I've never been a captive agent, but from my understanding of being a captive agent, there is kind of a step-by-step book that you can access to learn how to do things. And as independent agency owners, we do not have that book, which is frustrating and so empowering. It's beautiful. I started going to so many conferences, and at first it was very intimidating because I was learning, like, this is what you do if you want this. And if you want this goal, this is how you achieve this goal. And I was like taking copious notes, and it was like, okay, this is how I have to do it. This is what I need to do. But the more conferences that I went to and the more people who I got connected with, the more I realized, but that's the opposite of what that person is saying. But you're both, in my mind, what I'm defining as successful. So eventually I have just learned that there's no wrong way to do any aspect of this business. There's no wrong way. So in my agency, we have parameters and goals. We absolutely do things differently than any other agency that I know of right now. Um, but it's working.
I like the way you said it. The best thing about it is that it's also kind of the hardest part because there is no playbook and we came from the captive side. They did hold our hand quite a bit. And they do teach you a lot about the insurance aspect, but it's still not very entrepreneurial. It's
Mm,
it's we were with Allstate. And they taught us a lot about writing good business and how to pre-qualify, all of that stuff necessary, right, to not
super
waste time
necessary.
in
Yep.
our industry. But to your point, you're right. So many people, everyone is successful in this industry. It's very hard to fail out of this industry
Yeah, it really is.
because there's at the bottom, you just have to be a really good person and responsive, right?
Hmm.
Really, because the majority of it, I mean, in what other industry do you retain 80% of your business year over year?
Right. And
So,
one person's definition of successful is
correct.
not the same as another
Mhm,
person's definition of successful.
mhm.
So we're doing the organic growth path. We did do acquisition, but we're not doing like high volume, buy the leads, do the cold calls.
Correct.
That's not our approach to it. So we're growing much more slowly, which is our definition of success,
Mhm.
which might be different from someone else's definition of success.
What do you think is the one aspect that the industry can improve on?
Oh my gosh, Sierra, you won't be surprised. Absolutely support for women in ownership roles. It is, I really hope we've come. I don't know. I was going to say so far. I know we haven't come so far.
What does that look like for you? What would like give me something tangible that you think would make it easier for women to step into this role like you and I have?
Okay, so it's really that's a really great question. And first of all, it's hard because I don't know, I don't have access to gauge where we were, where we are, and where we want to be. So I've asked our Minnesota Big I, like, well, because this is our second year, we're having a Women's Leadership Day tomorrow. I've asked them, like, well, how many women owners do we have in Minnesota? And they said, we don't have that data. We don't ask that question. That would be a great
Yeah.
start.
Mhm.
Let's just start by even figuring out where we are.
Mhm.
So, anecdotally, when you go back to IAOA, which was a Facebook group and was the largest group that I'm a part of that I can reference in terms of this, I think like when I left that group, I want to say there were around 10,000 people
Mhm.
in the main group and about 1,000 people in the women owner group. So those 1,000 people were also in the main group,
Sure.
but you can assume that there are at least what, like 8,000 men. We first need to understand the numbers. We need to, I don't know if either one of us are going to like this answer because we're already exhausted, but the work is there. I think visual representation. I think women owners who stand up and say, I'm a woman owner and go about your day doing your thing. I think we have so many women in this field and they just don't even consider the ownership track.
I, to your point, I love that you said that they don't consider it because I think that it's twofold, right? Because I think you and I are also on the same track of taking action when it comes to being in this position. We're not victims of being women in this
Mm-mm.
space.
No,
We're proactive, we're go-getters, we ask the questions, we ask for the opportunities. So I think there's a level of responsibility in that, right?
right.
But to your point, I also think that there are some women in this industry that don't have the desire to be an owner. But even if
Absolutely.
you look at the production, right? Women in production that are 100% commission based, there's not many in that space either. I think one of the things that is actionable that can be done from the agent owner level is just having those conversations of asking, "Hey, do you want more?"
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to be a customer service rep or an account manager or an office manager, whatever role it is that you're playing in the agency, if you're content and you're fulfilled, great. But do you know what's available? Here's
Exactly.
what ownership can do for you. Like,
Right.
do you think you have it in you to, and then if so, let's support those.
Absolutely. Let's help make it an option that people are even aware of.
That's a good spot for even for us to start in. I've seen my dad do it. My dad has offered. He's everyone that has brought in. He's brought in. It's always a conversation of, hey, I don't want you to live here forever. I want you to know that you can do this too. I'm not really that special, and it's not very hard. Sure, there's market volatility, and there's the
Yeah,
challenges of employees and money. All of those things, right? Which programs now like Goldman Sachs help you understand
absolutely.
and get educated around. What do I mean? So there's layers to this, right? Because in ownership, there's less women. And then in that acquisition space, I would say that there's even less women.
Absolutely.
How do you think we break into that space? Like, where do you start? I mean, getting educated on acquisitions or how'd you come across yours? Are you just asking people? Like, how do we get into that space?
I ask people all the time, but that isn't how I came across mine. So when I bought the agency from my uncle, he belonged to a group of, oh my gosh, at the time maybe like 23, 24 agency owners, and they had all banded together like in the early 90s, if you think of it sort of like a union or something like that. So they were all independent owners. They all had all their own direct contracts. But somehow at the time, they were able to establish a group that the carriers looked at for contingency purposes only, not for commissions, for contingency purposes only. As part of that group, and I help run it now, I've been helping to run it for about 5 years with someone else, another agency owner. We have 14 agencies right now. And we're small. So, like, our whole group is smaller than some individual agencies around us. So, when an agency owner in that group leaves or retires, they are required to first talk to other owners in that group so that we don't lose the premium automatically. So that's what happened. And when I joined Sierra, there were maybe like, it was such great representation. Maybe a third of the owners were women. Not anymore. Like, they retire and it goes to men after that. I'm the only woman who goes to well, I will be this last meeting in October. And then Donna, one of our partners, is retiring, and then I'll be the only woman who goes to these events. But
So now you got to
Susan,
buy them all up.
I'm trying, lady. Susan came to me, and she didn't specifically say, "I'm, because you're a woman," but she had been pursued by 6 of the other partners, who all wanted to buy her book, and so I had stepped out of that conversation. I didn't want to get into conflict with anyone else, um, and so then she eventually came to me and said, "You run your agency like how I do, blah blah blah." She didn't say because you're a woman, but a lot of the things that we had in common are because we're women.
Sure.
So I specifically I tell every carrier rep, I tell everyone, big I'm always like, if you know any agencies that are getting up there, it's very hard now because most, especially in Minnesota, I'm learning it's kind of unique, are already part of another group, which takes a little finessing to try to get to them. But I also ask, how many in your territory are women owners? And the carrier reps don't have that information either. It's important because it is a tiny number. So that's why it's important to know that number and be aware of it. Even if we're not doing anything with that information, it's important to be aware of what that number is. And the carrier reps will say, like, "Oh, I can think of 3." And then they'll come back to me later that day. "I thought of 2 more." So it's something that's not even. And if we're not conscious of it, Ciara, that's how it continues to perpetuate to status quo.
Hmm. It's so funny to hear you say that even you decided to just, well, I don't want to cause conflict, so I'm not even going to try. That's
Exactly.
only something women do.
I agree with you 1,000%.
Throwing our hat in the ring for an acquisition, to hire someone for a line of anything, it's not causing conflict. Isn't that
That
wild
takes
how
a
that's
lot
our
of
natural?
unlearning,
Yes, it's our
a
natural
lot of conscious
inclination.
unlearning.
Okay, so if you could think back to old Lisa, younger Lisa, I don't want to say old because you're going to be younger, right? Like, what's the one piece of business advice that you think she needed to hear that you know now?
Oh, for sure that there's no one single way to do things. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I spent so much time, which I don't regret anything because I
Sure.
love where I am and I love
Hmm.
where I'm going. But I spent so much time very much being insecure about my insurance knowledge, about if I would have just listened to my business gut from the get go, I would have gotten here much sooner. I'm glad that I eventually did. Goldman Sachs was a huge piece of that. Things that I was learning, I was like, I knew that. I already knew that.
But isn't that even just also running this as a woman? It's the doubt of like, well, I don't have
Absolutely.
the acumen, so it's
Yep.
probably not true,
Yep.
right? Ignoring your gut
100%.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's
Because
infuriating.
we're questioned and then we need to like feel like we need to come up with some sort of a defense about why we're saying what we're saying.
Have you had any mentors throughout this journey?
So I've had mentor moments.
Mhm.
I haven't had a specific really structured mentorship like in the Hartford program or the Safeco program or whatever. Then they would like connect you with somebody, but nobody that were like really stuck. So my mentor moments is a phrase that I got from Danielle Smink, who we all love. Danielle is amazing, but she talks a lot about that. So Ciara, when you and I meet quarterly, oh my gosh, total mentor
Mhm.
moments. Like I learned so much. I do not have anybody that I hold up to as like a playbook or anything along those lines. It's a lot more
Casual.
learning things
Yeah.
from my peers, the
Well, you
people
also,
around me.
but you do have a circle of people that you can
I'm
call and
so fortunate to have the community that I have. Absolutely. Yes. Both locally, like in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and also nationally. Like I feel so incredibly fortunate with that.
tell me about scaling Willowwood, right? Like hiring. That's such a challenge for us as small business owners. What have you learned? And if you want to share some of the mistakes that you've made or what you think you've gotten right.
Well, it's so fun because I'm about to put out an offer tomorrow to another employee, and it's really fun. I'm going to share a little story about how I found Jenny. So I was asked for the Hug conference in San Diego, whenever that was, a year and a half ago, whatever that was. Linda Anderson like reached out and was like, "I'm giving a presentation on I think it was tasks and tags or something along those lines. HawkSoft. Will you be my assistant with me?" Which is so ironic because I am the last person who knew anything about the subject matter when I was asked. I was like, "Of course I will. Happy to be asked. What a compliment." Then I learned the subject matter. Then I go and she does the whole presentation, and I basically was like, um, keeping an eye on the crowd, just making sure, adding in when necessary, but it was really Linda's presentation. Someone in the crowd, it was big, so I don't know who all was there, but someone who had been in the crowd reached out to me like 4 months later on LinkedIn and said, "I saw you giving your presentation, and I am also a woman, and I am in insurance, and I am in Minnesota, and I'd like to know if you want to have coffee."
Check, check,
And it
check.
was like, absolutely, I would. So she and I have maintained that relationship. Our paths for career have not crossed yet. I would not be surprised if at some point they do. But I met her at like a carrier event in person, and she was with a coworker at the time, and we all chatted. Fast forward a year, that coworker left the industry almost a year ago and reached out to me and said, "I think that I want to come back. I want to do part time. I want to do from my house. I know all your systems and all your carriers. Do you have any opportunity?" I was like, "Yes." So now I'm getting ready to make her the official offer. And I am noticing, Ciara, that I already have on my computer um, a folder that's like HR, employee folders. This is what you give to employees when you make an offer. This is what you give to employees when they accept the offer. All of those things, Ciara, that would feel like playing house to me
Hmm.
5 years ago. 6 years ago.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have even known where to start with
You
all
have a
that. And
system
now
and a
I take it for
process.
granted.
Yeah, yeah. And these, it's all things that you've just learned and accumulated. And
It's
I
all
think
things that I learned. And I set it up before I was entirely ready for it. Like when I had like one employee, I set it up. It was like, and these are my future employees. So to speak to your scaling question, that's what it is, right? Like if I'm doing this once and it's taking me a really long time, I'm going to make sure that I will have it ready for the next time.
right, and it's a process of building what you do. Right, you
Mm-hmm.
don't wait. You're not necessarily you built it employee one because you knew there'd be employee six, right? Employee
Yep,
five. Like you have to build with you.
exactly.
You have to view your time as something like that, right? Like you spend the time to do it once, but you know that if it's something can be repeatable, then we need to do it. I need to build it that way from the beginning.
And we
That's
need to
great.
save it. We need to document it. We need to put it somewhere we can find it the next time. Those are all really important things.
I would say one of the biggest issues I'm having with my agency is the with the SOPs and the process is I didn't assign anyone to go back and keep it updated. So to your
Mm-hmm.
point, yes, it's not just the building of it, but also the monitoring to make sure that it is accurate still, right? That
Mm-hmm.
it's tweaked and updated with any changes in the systems or your own process.
That's very manual at first.
Yeah,
It's so manual, and then the longer that it's used, the more automatic it comes. Not automated, but automatic.
right.
When a change comes, people instinctively will go back to the spreadsheet or wherever it's being kept and make that update.
I love that. Yeah, I got to
Mhm.
fix that here in mine. I'm glad that you say automatic, not automated. Tell me about your agency from a technology perspective. Where are you on this AI game, AI play? How much tech do you lean into? Give us an overview about Willowwood.
When I bought the agency or the book from my uncle, he did have a management system, which not all my partners have management systems, and it's 2025.
That's
Okay.
wild.
He had a management system, and we switched to HawkSoft. Gosh, when did we switch? 2020. Right after, yeah, because San Diego was my first conference, and I got to see HawkSoft, and I got to talk to people who had HawkSoft, and I'm like, that is my first takeaway
Mhm.
from the IAA San Diego. Different management system, something that is going to work for us now and in the future.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have a management system. I think that I've counted like 8 techs, Ciara. So like I don't think of them as tech, but like we have a VoIP, right? We have a voice over IP
Sure.
telephone system. Technically that is tech.
Mhm.
You know, we have agency Zoom, which I could not run the agency without at this
Same.
point, or some
Mhm.
form of that. Um, I think that it was really like an extravagance when I got it. And now it's just baked into all of our
Mhm.
systems. We have Risk Advisor, again, totally baked in to all of our systems. There are a lot of options for all of these technologies that I'm talking about. And when I mentioned Risk Advisor, there are a lot of different technologies that do similar things that Risk Advisor does. And Risk Advisor is not the least expensive of them. And I saw talked to David Watson, the owner of Risk Advisor, for years before I bought Risk Advisor. And all during all that time, I continued. I didn't have a different one. I just didn't have one. I just wasn't to the size where I could rationalize spending the money. And I always said to him, when I get to that point, I'm doing Risk Advisor. That is my option. And I would continue to look at all the other ones. So when people say to me like, "Oh, you ended up with Risk Advisor, why?" I say, "David,
Mhm. I'm the same exact way. When I choose my technology, my relationship with the founders and the people there almost matter more to me than the piece of technology. There could be better tech,
yeah,
there could be better features, but if I have to use a chatbot to talk to someone and I can't pick up the phone and call someone, I'm out.
yep." And David, so
He's great too.
he's amazing, but also I don't have to understand all the technology. I understand David. I
Correct.
trust David,
Yep.
and I know that if we ever have issues, which we don't, but if we do have issues, even questions, I reach out to David
Mhm.
or Sarah, someone who he has done a great job introducing us to, right? This is Sarah in my agency. Sarah knows what I know. If you have questions, you can ask Sarah and she'll give you the same answer. Great, David, you continue to innovate and make this product better for us, and we'll ask Sarah the basic questions that we have. That's huge in scaling for him, and the better that he is at that, the better the product is for
Sure,
us.
sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% too. I love to get products too from people that used to sit in our seat
Oh,
because
a
they
hundred
understand
percent.
our challenges. So I 100% agree with that. If I if I don't like the humans behind, and I know that obviously there's some tech that you'll just never know. Like
Right.
I can't get anyone at Agency Zoom to help me with anything, which is frustrating. But you don't have a choice. It is what it
Back,
is,
yeah,
right?
and
There's
back in
some
the day, back when you started, you probably did have a contact at
right,
age.
right.
Yes.
Cat, we miss you. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's it's so true. The perspective of compared to what, but even myself, like when I was building and scaling the bunker, one of the things I did was I made a chart and said, okay, well, what can technology handle for me first? Right. So
Hmm.
I could build it in there, just maximize my money, my time, you right, my efficiency, and then move on to a human needs to touch it. Last question here. What's the best piece of business advice or career advice that you can give someone listening to this that you think could make an impact?
I want to make sure that this message goes out. It's one that I heard so many times before I truly believed it. So I'm going to repeat it again for those who have already heard it in the past. But you do not need to be an insurance expert to be an expert insurance agency owner.
Hmm, it's good. Uh, well, I think that's a great place to end.
There you go.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Thank you everyone for listening to today's podcast. For the best way to contact today's guest, you're going to click on the episode description below. We appreciate you listening and hope you join us on the next episode of the Insurance Perspective podcast. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ciara. It was so much fun
This was
talking to
great.
you.